We're at the Outback with tour champion Mike Goodis. Mike, we appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
And again, how did you play and how did your group play today?
We played good. We had a good group. Most all of them were low handicappers, and shot 10 under, which isn't going to win anything in these, but you're not going to win with low handicappers in this. But we had a great time. Good group of guys.
In this particular format now, I want the people to understand that you're playing with 4 amateurs for two or 3 days, and then it's 3 pros and 1 pro for 3 days. Is that correct?
That's right. This today it has nothing to do with the tournament. This starts tomorrow. Today and yesterday, and I played in one Monday. It's for fun. They really do it. It's in competition, but to raise money for the charity that they support.
But the amateurs, they play for prize gift certificates and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's a trophy. Yeah, okay. Prizes.
Okay. Well, tell us now. You won last year on the 2008 Champions Tour. Is that correct?
No, I won actually this year.
That's right.
First of this year in February.
You were in the top 30 money list,
That's
and
right.
you were able to keep your exemption for this year.
That's exactly right.
When you win here, does your exemption, is it 12 months from the day after you win?
Exactly, yeah. So it was the first tournament or second tournament of the year if you count the Hawaii tournament. It's like a tournament of champions. So it really didn't give me but, a week or 2 weeks exemption, to be honest.
Right. Did you ever go through the PGA, the Champions Tour qualifying school?
Yeah, I did for the season for 2007 and 2008. But the only thing, you went through that just to have an opportunity to Monday qualify those 2 days,
Right.
those 2 years.
According to Gene, and Alan was very vocal on this point, it seems like a very brutal process for great players like yourself to have to go through this continual process.
Well, if you're not coming off the regular tour with a lot of career money, you're gonna have a hard time getting out here.
What is the number on the career money?
I think this year it's around $7 million career money, and in the next 3 or 4, it's going to be probably over $10 million to have a spot out here.
That's probably the reason why Alan now is on the career money. He don't have to qualify any longer.
No, and I don't know what he's probably safe for a good long while. I don't know how long he wants to play. I think Alan's 60 or 61 now.
60 years old, yeah.
And so I don't, from what Alan had told me last year, I'm not sure he wants to grind it out for so many years. He's done very well, and he's a great champion, as we spoke about just a minute ago. And I don't really know where he stands on career money. I know he's in good shape for a while.
Tell me about your background. Where did you start playing the game, and tell us a little bit about your amateur career.
Well, I started as a little bitty kid. My dad was a good amateur golfer up in North Carolina. We grew up across the street from the golf course, and he had my brother and I start and hit balls as soon as we could walk, really. Just, I don't remember it because I was, a year and a half or 2 years old or something. But I actually started playing. I played my first tournament when I was 5, so I was still a little bitty kid. But I played a lot of junior golf. My dad was a big proponent of trying to get my brother and I to be, as good as we could get. And he was a good player and a good teacher, and that's how I learned to play. But when I went to college at University of North Carolina, go Tar Heels, thank you very much. And when I got away to college, I kind of lost interest in golf, and I never played golf at college. I went on a scholarship, but I didn't use it and didn't do it, and that's just part of the past. But at that time of my life, it wasn't important. As I got in my mid-20s, I got married, settled down, and picked the game back up. I really didn't play for 6 or 7 years, more than 2 or 3 holes a year, really. We still lived across the street. My brother and I may go walk over and play a couple holes. Right. And when I picked it back up about a year later, I started back playing some amateur, or state ams and stuff like that. And really was all, throughout the next 25 years, I played fairly competitive amateur golf. Some years, because of business and other obligations, I may play more or less, but I always played some amateur golf, some tournament golf. I tried to qualify for some USAMs and mid-amateurs, and played a fair amount of our Carolinas Golf Association championships and some local little tournaments and stuff. So I played. I had my hand in the game for a long time.
Comes our boy here.
Uh-oh, that's trouble. I can tell that's trouble. I can tell that's trouble.
Gene, how you doing?
Good, man. What's going on?
You played well today?
I played real good. Well, I want to tune it up for Goody for tomorrow. since we
I'm
just spent 2
stuck
days.
with him. I'm stuck with him today.
Yeah, the minute that I heard we were playing together, I started double timing everything. Working hard. I've been putting. I get in my room last night. I'm hitting balls. I'm putting. I'm doing everything.
See,
Balls are
he's
banging.
not very long because he can't hit it out of the room.
Full blast. They hit one wall. That was it. But no, it'll be good for us to play together. We
Absolutely.
always play good together. So we'll bring out the best in each other.
We were just talking about this, this qualifying thing. You know what I mean?
I'm glad I came in at the time when y'all are done with that, because it's a difficult thing, as Mike will tell you. I don't want to go back to it, but if we had to go back to it, the new format is pretty tough. And we see a lot of people. I mean, if you go to that qualifying, you'll see 20, 30, 40 guys that have played the tour, that have won tournaments. It's unbelievable. And then now they've got what they call the soft 70 out here. That I didn't know anything about it, to be honest. They used to be a hard 70. But now they go even deeper into 70 all-time money winners, rather than going to the school. So it's an elite group out here. It's tough to get here, but it's nice once you get here. But the process for us, even though Mike won this year, he really just gets a exemption from that tournament. He really didn't gain a whole lot, except the Hawaii. I mean, it's good to win, of course, but it's just it's going to be an ongoing process. No matter how well we do, it's still every year we're going to be doing like a lot of guys have to do. We're going to be battling from year to year, and I mean it makes it really hard, but it's part of the deal, But the qualifying thing, the way it's set up, as far as I'm concerned, I liked it better the other way. And I think, because if you think about it, we had 9 spots. I think, was it 9?
9. We had 7 to 9 and 4 alternates.
And 4 alternates. And what that does is, a lot of these guys, Mike Reed, a lot of the guys who aren't getting to play a lot of tournaments, you go out and shoot a decent round on a Monday, you get to play.
That's right.
Now the way it's set up, you can literally go out and shoot a 67 and not get in.
Right.
And it just, I don't know what the thinking is. I think what they're doing is they're trying different formats. They had came around to us last year and was talking about, when Mike and I were out there, what we thought. I thought it was pretty unanimous that we liked the way it was, but not only just for him or me. I mean, we're both looking pretty good even this year, but even looking back on it and seeing a lot of our friends and really, really top-notch players. I mean, as good a player as anybody out here.
Absolutely.
And the format, when you're only taking 3 spots and you've got 50 guys they're all tournament winners. I mean, you go there and it looks like a tour tournament. I just think the old system was more fair for everybody as a whole. And when you look at me, I made 22 tournaments. Mike played a lot last year. It just gives you the opportunity to play. And what's happening now is you're going to eventually get a lot of guys with all Fred Couples and all these guys coming out. That it's going to even make it harder. So what's going to happen? A couple things are going to happen. They're going to have to revisit that issue, because it's these guys aren't getting an opportunity to play. Some of the guys who finished 7th, 8th, and 9th, and 10th in the school, when we first started talking about it and they were explaining to me, they said they're going to play 10 to 12 tournaments. It's not working out that way because they changed to 70. And, Tim Conley's a perfect example. I think he's 8. I mean, these guys, he hasn't got in one tournament this year. And therefore, he misses the PGA. And he's 8th best qualifier in basically in the whole world. And that's pretty good. That's strong.
Yes.
And but he hasn't had an opportunity to play. So it's not because Tim's my friend. It's all these guys that are in the top 10. It just seems like they should deserve, to play a little bit. But, we have a limited amount of people, and it's hard. So we don't want to go back there. And
the bottom line.
It just seems like as a whole, and this tour is all about, we're a group, and we want what's best for the group. That's what I want. That's what Mike wants. And the old format was much. If you played a decent round, you got in. You couldn't complain to anybody on this tour about anything. You go out and shoot 69, 68, you probably got in. Now you shoot that, you don't get in. So
it's a different story. And when I first tried to qualify a couple of years ago, I didn't like the system because I was an amateur coming out. I liked the system where you were going to qualify and have full exempt for a year, or you didn't. And I was very upset because I didn't want to lose my amateur status for nothing. You can go through the tour school as an amateur. If you don't get a spot, you could stay as an amateur.
Oh, but you can declare after if you get your card?
But when they changed it to where you're qualifying just to have a chance to Monday qualify, that shot that all to pieces. So I didn't like it. And I didn't like it, I was very strong against it. But once I played in it, system for really 2 years, and I realized that there wasn't one time on a Monday qualifier that I played pretty good that I didn't qualify. Not one. And there's a lot of good players, and I'm not saying that I was, just head and shoulders above because they're all really good players. But I never had one time that I got through and said, boy, I played good and I still didn't make it.
Right.
Hang on, are you still an amateur? Maybe. Whoa. Let's back up. Maybe I'm 10th on the money list, not 11th. We need an official over here. Did you declare?
Actually, from after yesterday's tax return, I'm pretty sure I'm
Me
not.
too, brother.
Which is a good thing.
Yeah, but for Mike and I mean, it's a little different situation. We had a good year,
That's right.
and I think it's important for us because we've been through the qualifying. A lot of our friends back there, not to forget that system
That's
because
right.
it's not. We're a year away from going back to that.
That's
So.
right.
As I think about it, I've always thought that way. I thought about it when they did the survey, a DA, and all of them come and say, hey, what's the overall feel, for what's fair? And when I look at this tour, I see a lot of guys, they have great hearts. I've learned so much. Mike and I both about how to give and how to do things,
That's right.
and as a whole. And I think it's some really good players don't start getting in some of these tournaments, and they're going to have to, I'm just saying they don't have to totally retweak it, but they need to revisit it. And maybe some of the guys that sit up there tall need to go to one of those qualifiers.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure, I use Radar. Mike Reed is one of the examples. Here's a great player. Spent his whole year on tour. I think he's played in one time Hawaii, maybe 2 times.
I think.
A lot of these guys really deserve to play. I mean, they put their time in, and there's some of them that aren't getting to play. I mean, look at Lanny Watkins. There's a perfect example.
Well, he's exempt for the regular tour and not for the Champions Tour.
Because of the money list?
No, he's exempt because of he's a lifetime exemption for the regular tour because he's won 20 tournaments.
And a PGA, right?
Right.
But the main thing is, if you win over 20 or more tournaments, you have a lifetime exemption to every tournament on the regular PGA Tour. But because he's didn't win enough money now, because the money's so much less when he was winning than it is. He's exempt for the regular tour and not this one. Now that's they'll do some tweaking and they're going to get him exempt. They're going to change that rule. But there's it's how they run the tour, and I'm not criticizing, but how they make the rules is a moving target because they always change it depending on who's coming out and who needs to get out.
Right.
And it's the whole tour. The one thing Gene and I have to always remember: this tour was not set up for us.
Right.
As much as we want it to be set up for us.
We feel like we own it. I mean, but nobody else does.
But it's not gonna. It was never set up for us. It wasn't set up for journeyman pros like Gene or amateurs like me, or club pros or international players. It was set up for players coming off the regular tour. Maybe most time at that time, 30 years ago or something, they'd been off the tour for 10 years because hardly any of them played in their 40s.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And it was set up for them to make some retirement money.
Sure.
And they opened it, cracked the door slightly for people like us. And the crack is getting smaller. It's going to continue to get smaller. And that's the one thing I've come to accept. And somebody told me 2 years ago, and I didn't really like hearing it. They said, if you don't like the system, play better. Yeah. And the fact of the matter, I didn't like hearing it, but then I later embraced it. And I said, I got to get better. Yeah. Or go back to my day job. Yeah. And what I want to do is stay out here and play because it's a great way to try to make a living. And it's fun and we have a great time.
I don't have a day job. I gotta stay out here. Even if I got a caddy, that's what I did with Tim Connolly for about 3 tournaments. I never got paid for that either.
You like that documented.
Yeah, but I think you're always going to find that it's such a great place to be. Yeah. And there's so many great players, but the world is changing. The tour was set up years and years ago when there wasn't a lot of great players. You know what I mean? It was, and then they've expanded. I like this. I like the guys that sit up here because they're willing to listen. And this new commissioner, Mike Stevens. He is a terrific guy.
Yes,
he believes in having a good heart, giving back, and he is a perfect person to rule this tour. And I think he's the kind of person that will listen to you, whether he has a lot of just whether he can do a lot or whatever. Right. I just like his attitude. He's a people person. And he's heading in the right direction, I think.
Let me ask you something, Mike. Do you ever get
a word in when he's here? Is that the question you're going to ask?
You told me you told me to come. Hurry up and get here.
Do you ever get any negative or any kind of negative vibe from any other players?
Not at all. No, not at all.
No resentment or anything?
I mean, there may be some, but if it is, it's such a small percent of the people out here. I think, you know what, Gene, and I think most of the people, and I'm kind of speaking just from way I feel about it, is that you know, Gene and I worked our tails off, and we're very fortunate to play good at the right times and to get out here. Now, I mean, we want to stay out here, so we're still working our tails off to try to improve and get better and stay out here as long as we can. And I think the guys who are coming off the tour, the John Cooks, the Joey Sindelar I just saw, the Lauren Roberts, Jeff Sluman over there, these guys embrace that. They know how hard a road it is for us. And when I say hard, nobody's beating us up, but you got to play really good to get out here. I would have told you 2 years ago there wasn't one person that could go through our system of Monday qualifying and finish top 30, because I didn't think you'd get in enough tournaments. But we both did it last year. So, you know, I was a little, you know, shocked. I mean, people said, boy, this has got to be a dream. I said, I didn't think it'd be done. So,
right.
You know, for us both to do it the same year, I mean, to me, it validated our feeling is that was a better system.
Right.
It was, you know, it's great if you're one of those handful of people to get your tour card through the tour school.
The 5 slots.
The 5 people. That's wonderful. But the fact is, you're basing an entire year on 4 rounds. You know, if it's me, I'd rather base it on, let me try to qualify every week, without status. Give me more spots and try to qualify. But, you know, we have very little voice out here, and that's the way it's going to be. So, you know, the more than anything that I've embraced is I just better keep my nose to the grindstone.
Enjoy the ride.
Work my tail off and see how long I can make this last.
Well, I'm going to tell you something, Mike. From people like myself and my friend Marty and the guys at Kissimmee Golf Club, you're a real hero to all of us, you know, and we respect you for what you've done, and we are really hoping that you stay out here year after year after year. We appreciate your time.
We're going to keep trying, aren't we, buddy?
I'm going to try really hard.
I'm not done with you.
Oh, yeah, I can't beat that speed.
No, I'm not done with you.
Don't leave me. You stay right here and keep me company. I ditto everything he said. I like that.
What I'm going to do is, you're a local man.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you don't know this, but I played mini tour golf in the late '80s, and when you were on,
I remember that.
And Greg Town and all that group.
I saw Greg last week.
Yeah.
A week or 2 ago.
Well, so my questions to you, Gene, are going to be a little bit more.
Got to hope they're not more difficult.
No, they're not difficult. Not difficult, but it's
I'm
just
a practical joker, man. I you know, being out here, you got to let things roll off of you. It's a great place, but you know, it is hard.
Sure.
I never think about it being that hard, to be honest with you.
Well, that's what I want to talk to you about now. So, my man Mike.
My man, you should have got a stand, man. You stand it up. There's a chair. You want a chair?
He gonna walk around.
Is he gonna walk?
Yeah.
Hang on. I got a date tonight. I want to look good. Go ahead.
I'm here with Gene now. Gene Jones, our Altamont Springs. Is Altamont Springs?
I live in East Orlando, but Altamont's where my dad lives. That's where I'm quartered out of anyway.
Yeah. You played a lot of golf at Cypress Creek with Walton Zabriskie and all this guys coming up, and the last tournament that I actually played in a tournament with you at the old Cape Orlando. You remember that old Cape Orlando?
I live out that way. Oh yeah, it's been a long time ago.
That's a long time ago.
Yeah, it was. But you know, it's all, you know, you think, actually when you get out here and you're putting on these nice greens and you're playing for all this cash and the people you're around, man, you know, but all that stuff was laying the seed and the groundwork for playing out here. So, you know, I played every day back in those days. I mean, every single day. That's all I ever thought about was playing golf and trying to get on tour. And my dad told me when I was 20, he goes, "You're gonna be perfect for the senior tour," and he was right. I don't know why that was, but I think it just takes a lot of time to develop. It took me a lot of time.
Were you a college player?
For about a day and a half. I went to school and made an appearance. And you know, when you're 16, 17 years old, and my dad, he wanted to kick my butt when I got home. I went to University of Florida for not very long, and I just was a really good golfer, I thought. You know, when you're 16, 17 years old, I think I was 16 when I actually went to school, but when you're that age, you really don't know, and you know what's going on. And I just thought golf was a living in. I loved it. I worked hard, and of course, about 3 weeks later, after I quit and tried to play a couple tournaments, the reality of it all came true. But it's been a long journey, you know, for sure. But I've always had the right attitude about it because I really don't worry about the journey. It's the fact of getting here, and being able to be around Bean and all these great players and guys that I used to stand outside the ropes just 3 years ago at Bay Hill and watch them play and dream about having the opportunity to play with them. I thought I was going to be 60, 70 before I got a chance, but for me personally, like Goodies and the guys who make it, you have to have a lot of luck. And I think Mike and I both, we got an exemption in Pebble Beach, and we just seem to roll. We play a lot together, and we determined early on that it's important for us to sort of stick together, and sort of motivate each other up down the hill. Of course, we've been very fortunate to have 3 or 4 players that beat the tar out of us every week too. For lunch money.
Tell me, what were the first mini tours you played in Florida?
God, that's been a long time.
Was it the Goosey?
I think it was a Goosey. I played the North Florida PGA with man, she'd kill me if I didn't know her name. Millie Mix, I think her name was. But
the Daytona Beach office, right?
And that they were really nice to me. I was young and brash and thought I knew everything, and come to find out 99% of the stuff I thought I knew, I didn't. But I think everybody, when you're young like that, you learn a lot. I have learned a whole lot of stuff, and as far as playing tournaments and getting out here and I can't tell you how many mini tour tournaments I played.
Well, how many did you win, Gene? I know there was so many. You won a lot of mini tour events.
I couldn't tell you.
There's been a lot.
I would say so, but you're talking 1-day tournaments and 2-day tournaments, and then as I got a little older, I started. I played on tour in '93 and wasn't all that good. I think the thing that my dad. He's been my lifelong teacher, and he's a really smart guy. I never thought he was. But, as you get older, you think back on
that old man knew something.
Yeah, he does. And he had the foresight, and he said that, I always had a couple things that he liked as a guy. Had a good heart for the game, a lot of desire, to go forward. I really, there was times that to be honest with you, I sat and cried. And I think it was good for me. I just was always the perfectionist, and I always wanted everything. And shoot, man, I've copied Bobby Jones. I've copied every swing in golf. But, by doing all that and going through that training, I guess you would call it, I built a driving range in my backyard. I hit balls at night. I had a doctor buddy of mine, Dr. McDonald. We've been lifelong friends because I needed a doctor. He needed some lessons, and we worked it out. I didn't have the money to pay, but he used to call me in the morning. He'd call me at 6:37 on his way to the hospital, and I never understood it. I knew he was my friend, and he backed me a little bit, and actually helped me along the way. And now I look at it, and I'm going, man, what? He was really doing me a big favor. And that's a true friend. My dad used to call me, "Are you working? Are you doing?" And I think back at the little things that at the time aggravated me a little bit, and of course, now I look at it and, I owe a lot of success to those 2 guys and my mom, for me harassing her to go. I remember going back to the golf course when I was 7 years old, 5, 6, 7. Played real good. I won the U.S. Olympic Junior. I think that's more the reason I turned pro. I won the U.S. Olympic Junior and won the PGA Junior the same year. That was right like when I was in high school. And I just was full of confidence. But, when you're playing for money, it's a little different thing.
What happened in '93, Gene?
Well, I qualified for the tour. That was another tear. I cry a lot. I just remember that. But I had been playing all the tour, the Goosey, and been playing everything. Kept trying to do the qualifying, and just went in. If I told you how I made it through second stage, you'd die. I did too. I got there. I was down in Lake Javiva, staying at a real nice place there, and was going through the qualifier and wasn't playing good. Or it might have been Bear Lakes. I think it was. And was having a hard time getting through second stage. And got out there and wasn't playing good. I remember Jim Thorpe was there, and there was we all went out the night before the last round. I was like 3 or 4 shots out of it. And I don't drink. I'm a terrible drinker. I haven't had 4 beers in my life hardly. And I went that night and I said, okay, I'm all upset. I worked so hard, and I had a beer. Or maybe beer and a half, and I'm like, the next morning I had a hangover, and I said, it's either meant to be or it's not. I was sort of not at the end of my rope, but I just wanted a chance, and went out that day and started off on a birdie, par, birdie, shoot like 30, 31 on the front. Well, all of a sudden I'm back in it. So I make it, and I end up shooting 67 or something, and made it through the second stage. And I think that was sort of what turned me around in my golf career, is I saw a little bit of light. you know, a little bit of hope. And I was thinking, you know what I used to tell myself and my dad, he goes, you know, son, you might be the hardest worker in golf. He goes, you know, I know that Tom Kite and all of them work hard, but in my crazy little way, you know, at nighttime, I said, I'm not going to watch any TV. I'll putt. I will not watch TV sitting down. I'll putt. You know, those are the little tricks I was trying to play, trying everything, like a lot of great golfers do. And made it through that. Then I ended up making it through the finals. And it was, I don't know, I think in '93 it meant so much. And then as golf does, it can build you up and knock you down quite as fast. I started playing. I had a range at my house, I said, excuse me. And I had overhit and broke my wrist about the fourth week out.
So it was an injury.
Big injury. Oh, I got a metal plate. I got the whole deal. And George White in Orlando did it. And had to put a plate in there. I just tore everything up. But at that time on tour, you couldn't get a medical. I, you know, I had gone so good and was looking forward. I was always a pretty inconsistent player. I could catch on fire, but then I'd shoot 74 or 5.
You're streaky then.
I was at the time, and a lot more than I am now. I think I understand what my dad was saying. I used to have a little loosey at the top of my swing, and now since I had the surgery, I have a little smaller grips, and I hang on the club. My swing's a little shorter, and I don't hit the ball offline. But I had the wrist surgery, and I ended up being out for a long time. Kept playing, ended up making a couple $100,000 that year. With I won the Erie Classic, a little short course, only about 6,200 yards. I was butting around about 200 yards, and saw a little bit of light. Went through the school again next year, made it to the finals, did the whole thing, and ended up missing it by a shot. And was back in the same area. Had a bad wrist. Was out for about 4 years.
How were you supporting yourself, if you don't mind me asking, during those lean years on the mini tours? Were you making money? Was that enough to keep you going?
You know, it's a good question. I think back about the things I was doing. I was trying to. My dad always was a teacher, and I was a good teacher, you know, and I didn't want to resort to that. I just felt just couldn't do it. So I did some odd jobs and things. I didn't really care as long as I got to play golf. But you know, I was out for 4 years. My dad's a car wholesaler, so I just fell in love with cars and stuff and started wholesaling cars. I'd meet him in the morning, wholesale, and I'd go putt, and he goes, you know, keep putting and chipping. And I had a metal plate in my wrist, and I couldn't do anything with it. So, you know, I think that was the time that I learned to, you know, appreciate golf a little more and what I had, because I was out for so long, I couldn't even pick up a fork.
And this went on for 4 years.
4 years.
4 years.
And then I finally, George White kept. I had a couple kidney stones. I mean, it just wasn't a good time.
Sure.
But I was doing all right with it. I just was happy I'd made the tour. You know, I had that badge and I wore it around. You know, I felt like I accomplished something. Otherwise, I don't know if I would have even made it through that time. It was different. You know, and I did some odd jobs, and then went in and saw George White. A friend of mine, Dave McCampbell, who passed away, had cancer. His wife at the time was. They were into baseball teams, and one of the guys there had a metal plate in his leg, couldn't run good, had the metal plate taken out, and he started doing perfect. He was went to the major leagues. Like 2 weeks later, I mean, it was like a miracle. Called George White, and I said, hey man, can we take his plate out? He goes, let's do it. 3 weeks later, I'm golfing. No wrist problem,
right?
no nothing.
Wow.
I was blessed. I've always been lucky. If you ask my dad, he says I'm like Al Besselink. I never had a job, but I feel like I have. But you know, that was sort of like a turning point. I said, you know, I'm going to get another opportunity to play golf.
Gene, let me ask you a question, and I don't know of anybody here that would know this question more than you. There are so many great players on so many mini tours. I mean, you've got the Tar Heel Tour, you've got the Hooters Tour, you've got on and on. You know what I mean? With these tours, they're everywhere.
Yep.
What is the major difference between a tour player like yourself here and guys that want to be here? Is it mental? Is it physical? Is it putting, chipping? What is it?
I tell you, you're right. I probably can't answer that question because I've been asked that question, so it's fairly simple. First thing, you got to have a good work ethic. And I'll tell you what, most of these kids do have a good work ethic. My father is a video master. And that, having a video your swing and having somebody that can analyze that swing, and you got to have a good teacher. You got to have somebody that can work with you and see the same goals you have and not want to tear down what you have. And as a teacher, what I do is when I was teaching, I would take the things that people have good in their game, leave those be, and try to work the things out, you know, like the little flaws. I mean, can you imagine taking somebody like Jim Furyk or or Trevino? You have to work with what they have, and you spend a little time with them But having a good foundation and practicing proper is I think the key. I think it's the reason a lot of the Korean girls do so well. I've spent some time on the Futures Tour, and if you watch the girls who are successful, that's what I've always done quite well. I pay attention. I pay attention to every player out here. I know their swings, and I mainly watch what they do with people for me. And it's just a combination. It just hones everything out here. But getting back to your question, I think it's more of having a good teacher, desire, never give up. I see so many people that give up a little early on their dreams. I think it's, if you got to work a night job. I worked a night job for damn near a year. But I didn't mind it because I knew that daytime I was going to get to go. And I wore myself out. I don't mind. And but I had a nighttime job, and I remember to this day getting in. It was, I don't want to tell you what it was. It don't matter, I guess. But there would be mirrors, in these businesses and things, and I'd be working on my swing. And the guy that owned the place was, nice to me, and he didn't care what I did. He was happy to have me because I pretty much could handle the business. And I just wanted to get back out. Once I got my card that one time, I said, man, I can make it.
Yeah.
I told my dad, and my dad kept encouraging me, and Dr. McDonald said, you're one of the best players in the world. And then they started saying, look, if I had your swing, I'd make $1 billion. That started aggravating me right there. So it wasn't my time. As you go through, life is short. And if I had it all to do over again, I could have done it a lot quicker, but I look at it now. It'd be easy for me to look back and go, man, that was
Why
all
didn't I do
hard.
it 25 years ago?
Well, there's people that say that to me, but it was just my journey. It was meant to be, and there's a lot of people who maybe could have done it a lot quicker, me, but I'm not the biggest guy in the world. I never hit the ball real far. I hit it further now than I ever did. And there's no rhyme or reason, but the main goal is I never gave up.
On the mental part, when you're in a tight situation, coming down, you need a par to tie. Say, like, for example, what happened this weekend. You saw what happened this weekend. Mm-hmm. When you're sitting up on a shot, on the tee ball, the drive, the putt, whatever, what's going on in your mind? Are you thinking about what needs to happen, or are you just you're not thinking about the consequences? You know what I'm talking about. If I make this putt, then I'm going to get that.
And it's a complicated question, but I have the answer.
Okay.
I do. I was fortunate enough to be around some great players growing up that my dad, Outback, and some other guys. There's one thing that I have learned from my father: routine. Stay with the same routine. If you watch these great players, and if you kick back to Kenny Perry, he got a little stagnant on the routine. He was thinking more, looking all for it, and I love Kenny to death, and I was pulling for him to win. But that's one thing. If you get that routine, and rather than just concentrate on what you're supposed to be doing, and let the chips fall where they may, you stand a far better chance of executing. So if you watch these guys that fold during the end of the process, they'll take more time. They'll get quicker. And that's one thing that I've always been incorporated through my dad is the proper routine. That's what he teaches.
Take your time.
Well, stay with the same routine you use. If you normally use a 15-second routine, stay with that routine. Don't change it because of the situation. I had a putt to tie Lauren Roberts, when I finished second. First thing he said to me over that last putt, your routine was too slow. He goes, son, your stroke is good. You got to that point. You're at the last hole. Keep the routine the same. There was no reason to drag through that putt. Put it left lip and stroke it. You make or miss it. You're going to finish second. You know what I mean? And I learned a lot. Sometimes the failures, and people don't realize in golf, it's never going to be perfect. You're going to have ups and downs. And it's important that you learn from the mistakes. So that's what. Oh God. Talking about mistakes. Cap Cannon was one. Oh, I don't want to bring that up. Hey, am I too short to get on the camera? That's because he calls you all the time. I want to take you to dinner. I got that on film.
Well, Gene, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you taking your time today.
Really nice talking. Nice to see you again.
And I came to tell you, Marty, we was talking last night, and Rick, Sargent, and Marty, and all these guys, they wishing you all the luck, man. They really are.
Guys. And I'll tell you, Rick and those guys are, they do golf in a different way. They're club pros and stuff, but always were the nicest guys in the world. Fun to play golf with, and you could call those guys to come play a little golf. And you owe a lot to when you grow up and you're not able to play courses. Yeah. The guys like that.
That's right.
That's the foundation of golf. They teach and you can call those guys, go play around. And back when I had nothing, those guys save me because, you call them, they say, Gino, come on out and play. And those little things, they really add up. So,
Yeah.
good group of guys.
Well, Gene, again, we appreciate it, and like I said, once we get finished with this editing, we'll send you a copy of this.
Yeah,
Everyone,
you might want to edit the whole thing out.
Yeah.
But it's all good, it's a lot of talking about some of the issues, with the school and stuff. It's a funny issue, but Mike and I are qualifiers, so we the system.
Well, this kind of stuff is no one talks about it. No one knows.
That's what the problem is. And the thing is, Mike's a lot nicer than me. I just soon get to the brass balls of it all, and really, it's important that somebody has to say something.
Yeah.
I mean, if we don't, then the format can go the other way.
Yes,
and I
sir.
think Mike and I do have a voice out here. These guys are warm-hearted guys. They're great players.
That's great to know.
They are. I'll tell you
really
what,
is.
that is one of the things that I've learned. Mike and I both talked about it last night at dinner. We spent a lot of time together, by the way. Well, it's all about motivation, and we're playing a tournament. You get acclimated to it, and these are some of the nicest guys in the whole world. And Mike, we talked about it last night. Not only are they giving of their time, you see them going out of their way for kids, and Andy Bean, Thorpe, and Tom Watson, and doing all these signatures. It's a lot of work. It's more than you think it is, when you're inside the ropes. And those are the things that I've learned more. Not so much about the golf, even though I've learned a lot being out here. It's more about how they handle themselves as people. And it's
around
a tour.
the crowd. You know what I mean?
The crowd, the golf course, off the course, they're true gentlemen. Not only are they champions of golf, they know how to treat people. Very respectful, and just do anything to go out of their way, and that means far more than anything else in life in the scheme of things.
Right.
And it's just a great place. This tour is just unbelievable. What they do. I mean, they go to hospitals. I mean, it's the kind of thing a guy like me or Mike Goodies have always dreamed about doing. Because I think everybody has a goodness in their heart to do things. But to watch what they do for kids and everything, I started doing something myself. It's helped me in my own life to be a better person. So maybe I can hone my golf a little bit, but I think that thing is the way they treat people and the way they treat these corporate things, do the pro-am, they go out of their way. And not only here, but I'm talking about at a restaurant, and it's just unbelievable. It's amazing the way they put themselves out there.
Well, we're hoping that you're going to stay around for several years, Gene. Really are.
Me too.
All right,
man.
Thanks again.
Thank you. Thanks, buddy. Sorry to
How do I get in touch with you to send
Let
you
me
this?
give you a number.